The top of the hour, so we can get started here. So welcome everyone. My name's Ashley. I'm joined with Twalane. Unfortunately, our names got switched up on the screen here. So don't mind that too much. But yeah, welcome to the second Getting Started with Tiller session. So this is a part of a series of 6 sessions. Each are going to be covering a different getting started topic. And they all happen at this time each week. If you can't make it to a future session or you missed a previous one, don't worry. We provide a recording of each one, as well as a list of questions and answers. For everyone joining us today that are brand new to Tiller, welcome. We're really happy to have you with us. If you've been with us for a while, it's awesome to have you here too. January is a really great time to brush up on your Tiller fundamentals so that you can get your financials and budgets in order and get you that financial clarity for the year ahead. So today's session is all about understanding the foundation template, which is our go-to spreadsheet. Throughout the session, please feel free to ask questions using the Q&A feature in Zoom. We'll have time to answer questions live at the end, but if we don't get to your question today, don't worry. We're going to follow up tomorrow with answers to all of the questions asked during the session, as well as links to any resources that were mentioned today. Okay. So as I mentioned, this is session 2 in a series of 6. You can see a full breakdown of the upcoming sessions here. So next week, we're going to do a deep dive into optimizing categories. And then last week, we covered how aggregators work, how to connect your bank accounts, and how to create manual accounts and import your data. If you missed that one, no worries. There's a link to the recording in our community post, and I'll share that out after we wrap up here as well. Okay, so for today, as I mentioned, we're focusing in on the foundation sheet. So we're going to talk about how that works, making sure you feel comfortable working with the financial data that goes in there. We'll talk about creating your spreadsheet, how to navigate and understand the tabs that live in your spreadsheet by default, and then also some of the features of the Tiller Money Feeds add-in. So zooming out for a second, let's talk briefly about what Tiller is all about. So Tiller is your financial life in a spreadsheet, automatically updated each day. Tiller is a financial tool that makes managing your money in a spreadsheet fast and easy by automating your daily transactions and balances into spreadsheets, either in Google Sheet or Microsoft Excel. We believe that spreadsheets are the best way to really get in tune with your money. So we think this because they're flexible, they're collaborative, and they're very customizable. And that's going to bring us to the concept of the foundation template. So the Tiller foundation template is a simple and flexible monthly and yearly budgeting spreadsheet template. So we built the foundation template to be easy and to be your go-to budgeting spreadsheet option, really regardless of your expertise or skill level with spreadsheets. The foundation template is our default and it's our most widely used spreadsheet. And you can kind of think of it like your financial control center. So it's where all of your transactions go in. You'll see you can set your different categories, create budgets, and then view reports. And all of that information comes together in one place. What makes it different from a typical budgeting app that you maybe have tried in the past is that it is spreadsheet first. And what that means is that you own the data, you can customize it, and you're never locked into a single budgeting philosophy. So we really give you the power to own your own data. The foundation template gives you a really strong starting structure, but it's also designed to grow with you. And so we're going to cover this in a future session, but we also have some incredible templates and sheets that were created by members of our community that you can use if you have more specific needs or wanted to explore different budgeting philosophies. Okay, so now I'm going to head into my Tiller console and we can talk a little bit about how to actually create your foundation template. So here's my console view. Last week, we covered how to connect your accounts and get your transaction and balance information pulling into Tiller. And so this week is all about how you can actually see it and use it. So again, just to kind of orient ourselves, we've got our spreadsheet set up here. But if I scroll down, I can see my connected accounts. So I can see 2 of my connected accounts, and then I've got a manual account as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start with Google Sheets. I prefer to use Google Sheets, so that's what I'll do today, but the process is quite similar if you wanted to use Excel. So I'll click Google Sheets and it's going to open a new tab. And it's going to give you some information about how to get started. So it's going to show you some information about adding the Tiller Money Feeds add-on and how to get started with that. I already have it installed, so I'm just going to go ahead and click Use Template. And then we can kind of get started here. So one thing I want to mention as we're getting started here is that you might see a different experience as you're getting started where you're prompted to select your accounts before you get redirected into the spreadsheet. And what that means is that you're in our new experience, which is called direct fills. Only some of our members have access to this right now while we test it out. And so if your experience getting started with your spreadsheet is a little bit different, don't worry. The experience with the layout of the foundation sheet is exactly the same. There are just a couple of little differences in how your transactions make their way into your sheet. And so I'll provide a link to resources after the session that explains direct fills versus this experience using sidebar fills. Okay, so now I'm in here and I have my extension added. You can, if you don't have it added yet, you just go to extensions, add-ons, and then you'll just search for Tiller Money Feeds. So you can see I've got that added under extensions here. So I'm just going to go ahead and launch it. Let's try again. Okay, there we go. Might need to think for a second here. Okay, so while this is getting launched, we can kind of like look through our tabs here. So you'll see, because we haven't connected our sheet to our console yet or to any of our accounts, everything is blank. So if I click into my transaction sheet, you won't see any information. Same thing for the budgets. Everything's going to be at 0, which is what we expect here. So now this has come up. I'm going to select link sheet. And this step is going to connect our console to this sheet. So it's going to come up with a list of all of my connected accounts. So as I mentioned, I've got 3 accounts connected. I have my TD Bank connected via Yodlee, which is one of our aggregators. I have my test account, which is manual. So this is my demo data. And then I've got my Wealthsimple account, which is connected by the Plaid aggregator. I'm going to use my test account just so that we can see a bunch of different types of transactions. So all I need to do to get this information in is toggle on. I'm going to click confirm and just give it a second to think. It's going to pull in those transactions and you'll be able to see in the sidebar here as it goes once it's done. So again, I'll just mention, if you are in our direct fills experience, your spreadsheet will open up and automatically have transactions available. So you won't need to do this fill step in this way. But it's a pretty minor change and it's pretty intuitive to get set up anyway. Okay, so you can see here, it's saying it's filling updates. So it's still thinking a little bit. Just give that a second to pull in our transaction data. Okay, so now we can see things are starting to pop up. So this is our spending trends overview. And so you can see all of this information needs to be categorized. This is for the time period of December 11th to today. And now we're done. So it'll say all of these updates are filled. If you hover over it, it'll give you more information. So we're seeing 841 transactions filled and 2 balances filled. And we'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. Okay, so let's pop into the transaction sheet. So this sheet is where all of your transaction data is going to flow in from the accounts that are linked. This is all information pulled in directly from your financial institutions or from your imports. So if you do have accounts connected through Yodlee or Plaid, they'll just get pulled in automatically. I'm again using my manual account. So this is all information that I imported via a CSV file, which I did in our previous demo. One thing to keep in mind with a transaction sheet is that this is going to feed data into other sheets. We consider this to be one of our core sheets. And so it's really important to not make changes to the headers here because that could break some of the formulas that we have set up to make other sheets in the template work for you. And so it could break things down the line. So just be careful about edits in this sheet. Something to keep in mind as we're kind of moving through things is that if a cell is able to be edited, it'll be highlighted in green. So you will know where you should make updates and where you should not, or be more careful. So we'll kind of do a quick overview of our columns. We have the date. So this is the date of the transaction. Our transactions are all going to be sorted by this column. And so we'll see the most recent at the top. Next is the category. We're going to talk more about this today and then also do a deep dive next week. So this is a really important part of the Tiller experience. But this is where you will categorize your transactions into different categories that you set. We have the amount, which can be positive or negative. We'll see the account number, and institution. If you have multiple accounts and institutions connected, they'll all be sorted by date again. So you'll see the different account names and institutions kind of peppered in based on when the transaction occurred. For some of our budgeting stuff, they'll be sorted by month or by week. And so those values happen in this column. Month is always the first of that month, and then week is always the Sunday. So that's why this week is the 4th. We have the full description. So this is the description of the transaction that is pulled in directly from your financial institution. And then we have the date added. So this is the date that the information was added into the sheet. So for me, even though I have transactions that are dating back to 2025, they're all going to show me that they were added today on January 9th, because that's when the sheet was created. And then lastly, we have over here the source. So the source is manual, again, because I've imported all of these, but if they are from a connected account, this will show up as either Yodlee or Plaid. And then the import tag is something that we add on for manual CSV imports. And that just helps to identify any transactions that were filled into the spreadsheet from a CSV import in case there's duplicates or other things that you need to keep an eye out for. Okay. So that's kind of an overview of transactions. Next, let's check out the category sheet. So if I click here, you'll notice that the sheet is totally green, which means that you can go ahead and update it as needed. This sheet isn't pulling in any data from your accounts, but it is where you'll set up your budgets and also the category types that are relevant to you. So more on budgets later. You'll notice here that we have these 3 categorization levels. So we've got category, group, and type. I'll start with type because it's the most broad. So the types that we have are income, expense, and transfer. It's not possible to add any additional types. So all of your categories have to fall under income, expense, or transfer. Under group, these are going to be groups of categories. By default, you'll see that we have things like discretionary, financial, income, living. So these are all of our groups that are just kind of out of the box, but they're meant to be buckets for the broader buckets, rather, of individual categories that can sort into those. And then that's going to bring us to categories. So with the categories column, these are all of the different, more granular categories that you can set up for transactions. What you want to do is just really feel free to make this work for you. You can use these as is, you can modify them slightly, or you can also completely overwrite them or clear out the sheet and start from scratch. The default categories here are just kind of intended to inspire you and give you an idea of what are commonly used. But something to really keep in mind is, like, there's no perfect category list. The best categories are going to be the ones that help you to make decisions. A key part of the category sheet is that this is also where you set your budgets. So both your month-to-month budgets and also for the full year. So a common question that we hear from a lot of folks who are new and just getting started in their Tiller spreadsheet is that this is all zeros. Nothing is pulling in here. And that's expected. This isn't going to show you your spending for each month. Instead, it's where you're going to set that up. And so we're going to talk about setting up budgets in a minute. But the first thing before that is that I do want to talk about how you can apply these categories to your transactions. Okay, so all of these are going to be available on the transactions tab in this dropdown. So one of the ways that you can categorize things here is just by manually selecting them from this dropdown. Obviously, that would be very tedious. We have over 800 transactions that just got filled here. So there is a way to automate this, and that is going to be in the AutoCat tab. So jumping into the AutoCat tab, AutoCat means automated categorization. And it's going to let you set rules to categorize your transactions without you having to manually go through each one and make those updates. AutoCat only makes changes to the transaction sheet and it only updates the category column. So it's not going to make any changes to your data, but it will apply that to the transaction sheet here. And then this is also how we populate information in spending trends and in the budget. So it's really important that you get your category set up in a way that makes sense and also to categorize each transaction. So you'll see in the AutoCat sheet here, all of your different options. So here's where you would select your category. And then next you have description, the account name, the institution name, and you can also categorize by amount, so minimum and maximum. Most people find that they can do this in the description column, and that's kind of the simplest way forward. So I'm going to focus on that. Okay, so let's add a couple of categories based on my transactions. So if I come into the transactions tab here, I'll go through and I can see a couple of options here. So we see these ones are interest paid. So I'm going to go into AutoCat and create a category for interest. And then the description of that one was interest paid. So we'll go ahead and do that. We can do in this one, let's do groceries. So I'm going to say the word grocery in here. If I wanted to add my paycheck, I know that my paycheck is processed through Gusto payroll, and that's in the description. So I'm going to add Gusto. We can do one for shopping. So for instance, let's do Target in there. And then we can kind of go through and see if there's any more that makes sense. You can see here, this is for rent. So rent check is the description. So I'm going to go ahead and add a category for that as well. So that would fall under housing. And I'll say rent check. Yeah, okay. So these are just a few options here. Obviously, there's a lot more in that spreadsheet. But what I'm going to do now is run AutoCat so that it will apply to the transactions. And so this is where you're going to want to use your Tiller Money Feed sidebar here. So once I've made some changes to the AutoCat sheet, I'm going to come over here and simply click Run AutoCat. And then I'll come over back into my transactions template so you can see those things start to populate in the spreadsheet. So now you can see here pretty clearly, anything that matches the rules that I just set up is starting to show up with a category there. So we know groceries coming up there, paycheck because it contained the word Gusto. Anything that had the word grocery is going to pop up. Again, paycheck, shopping. So again, there's lots of different options that you can do that make sense here. But this is just showing you how quickly and easily you can categorize things, especially for commonly used categories. Okay. So now what we can do here is I'm going to head back into our spending trends tab. And now you can see we've got even more information available to us here. So just kind of taking a look at this tab, which is sort of our broad overview. Now we can see some of our things that have been sorted into income. So we've got paycheck, we've got that interest payment. We also see the expenses that we started to categorize. So housing, that's our $750 rent check. We also are seeing, a shopping charge here. And again, this is insights for the last 30 days. You can update this to be week, month, quarter, a custom time period, really whatever you want to be looking at in this broader view. Okay, so next, let's take a look at how our categories actually fit into our budgets. So to do this, we'll head back to the category tab, and then we can kind of talk about setting the budget for each of these categories. If I head into my budget tab right now, you'll see here my actual spending for each of these categories, but I don't have any budget set. And so we need to actually set that in our categories tab here. Okay. So let's go through. I'll start with the ones that are the same every month so that we know we can get those started. So I know, let's say if I have two paychecks for $2,500 every month, that means I'm budgeting $5,000 of paycheck income. And you'll notice that when you start typing that in and when you enter it for the first month, it's going to carry forward to all of the months ahead. So it makes it really, really easy for these, recurring budgets that it's just going to carry forward. Similarly, I know that my rent is $750, so I'll put that under housing here. And again, that's going to carry forward all the way through to the last month of the year. Now, you can set a specific budget that's different in different months. So for example, we can talk gifts. We're just coming out of the holiday season. I know for me, I spent a lot more on gifts in November and December than I did the rest of the year. So maybe we set a budget of 50 for gifts, generally speaking. But then if I scroll over here to November, maybe I'll update that to 250. And then again, it's going to carry forward to every cell ahead of it. So that automatically applies to December as well. Let's say I want to set a budget for restaurants. Let's say I want to spend $100 a month on restaurants. But maybe I know I have a special occasion coming up in April. Let's say this is when my anniversary is. So maybe I want to update that to 250 just for that month. It will carry forward. So I will need to go back and adjust that for the months going forward there. And that's how you would set up for a sort of a one-off increase in budget for a specific month. So again, you'll just go through and fill this out. And now that we have filled out some of these budgets, what we can do is go back into our monthly budget tab. And now you'll see it looks quite a bit different, right? So if I come down here into our income section, you'll see here that I've budgeted for $5,000 of income, which is the paychecks. You'll see that my actual is $32, which came from an interest payment, and that I'm in the red for $5,000. And that's just because there hasn't been a paycheck in January yet. When the next paycheck comes in, this will automatically update. Similarly, coming down into expenses. So if we look at our discretionary expenses, we saw a $50 budget for gifts. We haven't bought any gifts this month, and so we still have a $50 available there. For shopping, I didn't set a shopping budget, but did spend $65 that was categorized as shopping. So this will show up as a negative because we've gone over our allotted amount there. So you can start to see now how important it is to set up and categorize your transactions, because those categories really determine how you're viewing your data. Anything that's not categorized isn't going to show up here. And so when we're looking right now at the month of January, it shows us that we have 35 transactions for this month that haven't been categorized and therefore are not being applied to the budget. You can also go back and look at different months from here. So if I go back to last month, using the little drop downs here, you can see again, and it's going to update me and tell me that I haven't categorized 79 transactions from this period. So again, it's going to be challenging to know exactly where that spending was. I also don't have a budget set up for last year because this is a brand new sheet moving forward, but I do have transaction data. So again, that's kind of why there's 0 in the budgets, but you can see the actuals because we didn't create a budget for the past, but we do have categorized data for income, for our discretionary expenses, and all of that fun stuff. Okay. I'm going to come over here now and take a look at the yearly budget. So the yearly budget is going to show us kind of everything moving forward. So you can see here, we're viewing this from January of 2026 on, and this is going to show us a breakdown of the overview of the year, as well as what we have for each month so far. So you can see what our budgeted cash flow is. We have for income, we've budgeted $60,000 because we budgeted $5,000 per month. And then scrolling over here, under January, we can see what's already been spent. So this is the same view as the monthly, but it's just going to show us for months ahead as well. So we can kind of continue to scroll over. So as the year goes on, you'll have more and more information being populated in here so that you can see exactly what you've got going on. You'll also notice here, so for January, February, and March, my budgeted cash flow is the same. But if you remember for April, I budgeted to spend a little bit more on restaurants. And so that's reflected here as well. So all that information just flows directly into this sheet in the template. Okay. Again, you can go back in time and view different time periods. So if I wanted to use the dropdown, I could go back to 2025, again, starting from January. I don't know if I have any actual data from back there. But if I scroll over, we can see some spending. Yeah, so we can see some spending here in December. And again, because I didn't set up a budget for last year, there's not going to be any budgeted cash flow, but I did categorize my paychecks. And so those are coming through as actual cash flow. Okay, so that's sort of transactions, categories, and then how setting your categories and applying them to your transactions then feed that information into your monthly and yearly budgets. The next and sort of final sheet I'm going to cover that lives inside of the foundation template is the balance history sheet. So the balance sheet is also a core tiller sheet, so similar to our transaction sheet, and it is fed by the money feeds, sidebar, or direct fills, depending on the experience that you're in. Your latest balance entries are added to this sheet when you click the fill button or when the automatic direct fill happens. And I really want to make note here that balance and transactions are treated as completely independent by Tiller. So these come in separately and are managed separately. And so if you edit the transaction sheet, it's not going to affect your balances. So if you were to add a transaction, that doesn't automatically update what the balance is here. So you would also need to manually update that balance history entry in the console. We did a run through of manual balances in last week's demo. And in that demo, I updated my balance to be this $2,500 amount. But this is unaffected completely by all of the transactions that I imported. So really important to understand that these function independently and they don't talk to one another. So sometimes you might see a discrepancy there, which is normal because, again, importing transactions will not update your balances. Okay, so now that we've filled in some information, we went through categories and transactions and budgets. Let's talk about the Tiller Money Feeds add-on extension. So we looked at it a little bit when it comes to the AutoCat and running AutoCat, but let me open it up here because there are some other things that it does to help manage your finances. So let's just give that a second to pop up here. Okay. All right, here we go. So it's launching here. So the Tiller Money Feeds add-on really powers up your Tiller experience with some different features to help you stay on top of your finances. If you're in the sidebar fill experience, which is what you're seeing right now, you'll use this to fill your transactions. So if you need to add your new transactions from your institutions, you'll use the fill button here. You can see here it's checking for updates. And that's it filling the sheet. I don't have any updates because this is a manual account. But even if you're using direct fills and don't need to use that fill button, this is still a really great tool to have because there are certain things that you can do using the sidebar that will be helpful. So one of the things that's really helpful outside of the AutoCat sheet is that you can create a rule on the fly here. So you can just click on create a rule, and then you can add something like, let's say, I know that I have a Chick-fil-A here. So let's add that. And I'll add that as restaurants. And then I'm going to click create rule and run AutoCat. And then that's going to automatically populate that there. So if you just have one update you want to make and you want to apply it to your whole sheet, that's a really quick way to do it and to create a new rule. So we'll let that think for a couple of seconds. Sometimes it takes a couple of seconds to go through the whole sheet and update that, but we should see that pop up as yeah, there we go. So now we're seeing that categorized as restaurants. So you can do that directly from the sidebar. Another really helpful tool is the split transactions. So if you have a transaction, maybe from a department store, I think that's a really common one where some things might fall under, household, some things might fall under medical, some things might fall under grocery. You can split up an amount and categorize it separately. So I'm going to go ahead and search for a Target purchase. Let's go for a larger one here. Okay. So I see here I spent $300 at Target. That was automatically categorized as shopping, but maybe I know that I spent a bunch of that on groceries. So if I highlight the amount cell and then click split, it's going to give me the option to update my categorization to split up that transaction. So let's give it a second here. Okay. All right, here we go. So for split transaction, I'm going to go ahead and say I know that of that $300, I spent 125 on groceries. I'll click add split, and then it's going to automatically keep the rest of that transaction under shopping. And so I'm going to click to split the transaction. And what it's going to do is generate a second row here that has the same description from the same account and all of that, but it's going to give me this $300 total split up between shopping and groceries. So that'll just take a second to pop up in the sheet here. And there we go. So you can see now that we can split up that transaction. And again, just to keep it really, really clear exactly where our money is going. Okay, another thing you can do is to manually add a transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Let's say it's a deposit. I'm going to say maybe it was my birthday and my grandma gave me a check for $50. So I'm going to go ahead and say that. I'll go ahead and mark this as, I'll say it's a paycheck because it's income and I don't have another income category. And then I will go ahead and add the transaction. And then that's going to pop up here at the top. And again, it's going to have that description. It's automatically categorized as a paycheck because I set that up, the amount. And yeah, we can see that that has now shown up in our transactions list. Okay. The last thing I wanted to highlight down here is that we have this template section. So in the Tiller Money Feeds add-on, this is a tool that's going to allow you to install or update the foundation template dashboards and sheets, as well as let you find some community solution templates. We have another session that's totally dedicated to the Tiller community and community solutions. So we won't get in too deep on that, but this is a really cool area where you can sort of browse different sheet templates and add them as like additional data for your spreadsheet. So you can see here, some are made by Tiller, some are made by the community. I'll just focus on the ones made by Tiller. So the ones with the green check marks are ones that you already have installed in this sheet. So all of our default ones, so accounts, balances, monthly budget, spending trends, yearly budget, all of that good stuff. But you can also install other ones. So a really popular one is our debt payoff planner. So if you're working toward paying off credit cards or line of credit, a loan, all of that can be managed through this debt payoff planner, and it can help you to visualize your progress toward that goal. You can also do savings goals, which is similar, or a simple P&L. So again, this is just a way to quickly add a new sheet to your template that's going to help to cover any additional goals or insights that you need to have. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to show you now that we've kind of gone through our default spreadsheet is just how to access it going forward. So coming back into my console, now you're going to see under linked spreadsheet your new template. If you open it up, it's going to show you exactly which accounts you have linked. And to access it in the future, all you need to do is click open, and it's going to bring you directly to it. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the demo portion of the webinar. The one thing I wanted to say is that the best next step after this session is really simple. Just try to spend a little bit of time with your data, categorize your recent transactions, look through your monthly budget, notice what stands out, and kind of make adjustments as you go.